Starmer under fire over channel crossings. Right then, grab your coffee and buckle up, because while you were probably scrolling through TikTok this morning, the channel turned into Britain's most expensive water taxi service, and the meter's absolutely flying. We've just smashed through 25,000 arrivals faster than you can say summer recess, and suddenly everyone's screaming for Keir Starmer to drag MPs back from their holidays like a headmaster calling in truants. Welcome back to UK Daily Coffee, where we serve politics hotter than your morning brew and twice as bitter. I'm your host, and today we're diving headfirst into the political storm brewing over our borders while our dear Prime Minister probably wishes he could take his own dinghy to somewhere far, far away from Westminster. So picture this, 898 people crammed into 13 boats on Wednesday alone. That's roughly 70 people per dinghy, which makes your morning commute on the Central Line look positively spacious. We're talking about boats designed for maybe 15 people now carrying enough passengers to fill a small cinema, and spoiler alert, this isn't exactly first-class travel we're discussing here. But here's where it gets properly mental. The total for this year has rocketed past 25,000 in July, marking the first time we've hit this milestone before August. At this rate, we'll need to start issuing frequent flyer cards for the English Channel, though I suspect the in-flight service remains absolutely dreadful. Now, if you think that sounds like a lot, you're absolutely right. We're looking at 120 arrivals every single day, which breaks down to one person every 12 minutes. That's more regular than most bus services, and probably more reliable than Southern Rail on a good day. The shocking part? This is happening under a Labour government that promised to smash the gangs, though at this point, it looks more like the gangs are doing the smashing. The numbers tell a story that would make even the most creative Treasury Chancellor weep into their spreadsheets. We've gone from boats carrying about 15 people 5 years ago to floating death traps with 80-plus passengers squeezed in like sardines with significantly worse life expectancy. More than 50 dinghies since April have been detected carrying over 80 people, with over a third of those arriving just in the past 2 months. It's like Black Friday shopping, but with life jackets and significantly higher stakes. But wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. We've got P&O ferry captains having absolutely surreal conversations with French naval vessels that sound like something from a Monty Python sketch. Picture this exchange, is that the same dinghy we reported when it was on the beach in Calais about 2 hours ago? French captain, yes, it may be the same, yes. I mean, you couldn't script this level of bureaucratic comedy if you tried. It's like watching a very slow, very dangerous game of maritime ping-pong where the ball happens to be filled with desperate human beings. The French response to this crisis reads like it was written by someone who's given up entirely on life. When some migrants refuse rescue, because apparently being saved by the French means going back to France, shocking I know, the French maritime authorities basically shrug and say, well, off you pop then, mind the gap between life and death. Their official statement mentions not wanting to force people onto rescue vessels due to the structural fragility of the boats. Translation, these things are held together with hopes, dreams, and probably some very optimistic duct tape. Critics are absolutely losing their minds over this, and frankly, who can blame them? When your border control strategy makes Swiss cheese look watertight, people tend to get a bit miffed. The calls for Parliament to be recalled are getting louder than a football crowd after a dodgy penalty decision, with politicians declaring this a national emergency that requires MPs to actually, do their jobs instead of sipping pims in their constituencies. Kimi Badenoch, not one to miss an opportunity for a political uppercut, pointed out that 25,000 people have crossed under Starmer's watch. Now, technically, Starmer's only been in the job since July, so unless he's developed time-traveling border control powers, this might be a slightly unfair attribution. But hey, politics isn't exactly known for its nuanced approach to blame distribution. The human cost of this bureaucratic nightmare is genuinely heartbreaking. We're talking about boats so overcrowded that people are literally being crushed to death, with women and children shoved into the center like some twisted game of Tetris where the pieces are human beings and losing means drowning in the English Channel. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's description of people storming boats and trampling over tiny children sounds like something from a disaster movie, except this is happening on our doorstep every single day. The people smugglers, meanwhile, are probably laughing all the way to whatever bank accepts blood money. They figured out that cramming more people into increasingly dangerous vessels maximizes profit with zero regard for human life. It's capitalism at its most ruthlessly efficient and morally bankrupt, like Amazon delivery but with significantly higher mortality rates. What's particularly maddening is the government's response, which sounds like it was crafted by a committee of civil servants who've never seen the sea, let alone crossed it in an inflatable boat held together with wishful thinking. They're talking about dismantling business models and strengthening international partnerships while people are dying in British waters faster than bureaucrats can schedule meetings about it. The Border Security Command sounds impressive until you realize it's probably 3 people in an office somewhere trying to coordinate with French authorities who seem about as interested in stopping these crossings as vampires are in selling garlic. The enhanced enforcement operations in northern France apparently consist of watching boats launch from beaches and then politely asking if they're the same boats that launched 2 hours ago. Meanwhile, the new border security, asylum and immigration bill is making its way through Parliament at the speed of continental drift, which is roughly how fast government moves when faced with any crisis that requires actual decisiveness. By the time this legislation passes, we'll probably need to build a bridge across the channel just to handle the foot traffic. The international intelligence sharing sounds fantastic on paper, but given that the French are essentially playing maritime traffic wardens with a not my problem attitude, one wonders exactly what intelligence is being shared. Yes, that's a boat. Yes, it has people in it. Yes, they're heading your way. No, we're not stopping them. Groundbreaking stuff, really. What's truly bizarre is that we're treating this like some sort of natural disaster that's impossible to predict or prevent. These aren't spontaneous aquatic migrations, they're organized criminal enterprises running what amounts to a maritime Uber service, except the drivers don't care if you arrive alive and the customer service is provided at gunpoint. The calmer seas mentioned in reports have apparently made smugglers even greedier, because nothing says perfect weather for human trafficking like a gentle breeze and moderate waves. It's like they're checking the shipping forecast specifically for optimal conditions to risk dozens of lives for maximum profit. But here's the really infuriating part: while politicians are demanding Parliament be recalled for urgent action, the same politicians have been aware of this crisis for literally years. This isn't a new problem that suddenly appeared like a surprise pop quiz. It's been building steadily, with the numbers getting worse and the boats getting more dangerous, while successive governments have basically played an elaborate game of hot potato with the issue. The public frustration is completely understandable. When your elected representatives are more focused on their summer holidays than addressing what's being called a national emergency, it tends to erode confidence in the entire democratic process. It's like hiring a security guard who goes on lunch break during a burglary and then acts surprised when people question their effectiveness. So where does this leave us? Well, with 25,000 arrivals already this year and the summer season far from over, we're looking at numbers that could easily double by year's end. The current trajectory suggests we'll need to start issuing Welcome to Britain starter packs at Dover, complete with maps, weather warnings, and probably an apology note from the government. The solution isn't rocket science, but it does require political will that seems to be in shorter supply than affordable housing in London. You need genuine cooperation with France, which means probably paying them enough to actually care about stopping departures rather than just waving goodbye. You need processing centers that work faster than geological time scales. And you need politicians who understand that summer recess doesn't mean the problems take a holiday too. But most importantly, you need to address the root causes that make people willing to risk death in an overcrowded dinghy rather than stay where they are. Until that happens, we're basically playing the world's most expensive and deadly game of whack-a-mole, where every boat we intercept is followed by 3 more. The Channel crossing crisis isn't going to solve itself while MPs argue about who's responsible for counting the boats. It requires immediate action, genuine international cooperation, and politicians who prioritize human lives over political point scoring. Whether that's possible with our current crop of leaders remains to be seen, but one thing's certain: the meter's still running on this maritime taxi service, and the fare is being paid in human lives. So what do you think? Should Parliament be recalled to deal with this crisis, or are we just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while the band plays on? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to UK Daily Coffee for your daily dose of political reality checks. We're posting multiple videos daily because frankly, British politics moves faster than a channel crossing these days, and somebody needs to keep track of the chaos. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into whatever fresh political disaster emerges by tea time, and remember, we serve the truth hot, bitter, and without sugarcoating. Until next time, this has been UK Daily Coffee, keeping you caffeinated and informed in equal measure.